All electrolyte and hydration mixes and drinks are not created equal. I mean, check the ingredients. They have sugar or sugar alternatives, and there's tons of added stuff. Allow me to introduce you to the best electrolyte mix, Light Balance, Lyte balance.com. It's a naked electrolyte mix, which means no preservatives, no sweeteners, no flavoring, no caffeine or gluten, and no calories. I'm always on the search for the best hydration, and I've found it. My entire family uses it, and I use it on all my runs. It's solved all my hydration issues. Your body needs magnesium, potassium, and sodium, which Light Balance conveniently provides in liquid or powder form. Pure, powerful hydration. Light Balance. Go to lytebalance.com. Our guest today on the Mental Toughness podcast has coached in baseball for decades. He started coaching in the Angels organization after his minor league playing career. Spent 30 years in the minors. He was a bench coach for the Angels 2002 World Series, took over the Tampa Bay Devil Rays in 2006, changing the entire organization. Went from the worst record in baseball 2007 to winning the AL Pennant in 2008 World Series berth. Our guest, of course, is manager of the 2006 Chicago Cubs for the first World Series title in 108 years. He had over 470 wins in 5 seasons in Chicago. He's been manager of the year in Major League Baseball 3 times. His podcast, which is excellent for baseball fans, with Tom Verducci, it's called The Book of Joe. Really looking forward to this conversation today. Let's get into it. Coach Joe Maddon. Coach, glad we could connect, man.
Thank you, brother. Great to be with you here today. That's a pretty good recap. You did your homework as always. I've been looking forward to this for a bit. 9:00 in the morning here in Tampa. It's kind of an awesome start to my day.
Oh, it's awesome. Well, the pleasure's mine. I've been really looking forward to it. And I always think, like, especially the podcast host, when you have to do your research, and that's my favorite part. I love this. We got to connect with, through Blades Brown. You got to do a practice round with him. A little pro-am. I mean, obviously immense talent. He's an incredible kid. What was your take on him, like playing an entire day with him?
Well, first of all, and I get there and I hear about this 17-year-old kid, and I think, okay, this is different. And then walking up to the first tee, he came by and introduced himself to me, and immediately the poise and confidence was like burst right through. That's my first impression of him was poise and confidence. And then he goes up on the first tee and he just absolutely mangles his drive. And clubhead speed, athleticism, fluidity, all this stuff was obvious just from the very first moment I saw this kid. And then he was like encouraging conversation. He was encouraging it to me. So I was listening. And he's definitely, he's a seeker. He's like seeking information, seeking truth. He's seeking things all the time. And he does it in a really disarming way where you believe he really is interested. I'm one that will always, whatever, spill as much as anybody wants if I really believe there's a sincere interest in what I'm saying. And there's other times people talk to you, ask you a question, and it's like they're already thinking about the next thing. They're not even really paying attention to what you're saying. So that kind of is my exit ramp kind of a thing for a conversation. But he was just locked in, and he kept asking me things during the course of the day. He started giving me a little bit of a hard time, mess with me a little bit, which I kind of liked. I liked that part of it. But more than anything, humble, but confident. There's arrogance and there's confidence. I think there's confidence there more than anything. So I was impressed, man. And he's a prodigy. I mean, listen, at that age, to hit the ball like that, not that he just hits it far. He's got a complete game. He just needs some time and experience, and he'll get that. But God, what a talent and a great kid.
Yeah, indeed. And that's the best part. I mean, I really have nothing negative to say. He's a guy that I think can win a major for sure. In terms of that it factor, because you've done so many years, Coach. I mean, just scouting so many different players. I'd love your take on it, because I think believe that with the it factor, it could be something different for everybody, right? It could be somebody's level of letting go of mistakes. It could be somebody's obviously athleticism, or somebody's focus, their drive, their coordination. But what are some of your thoughts just on that overall it factor?
Yeah, I do. There's a charismatic component to people like that. They draw you in somehow. It's innate. I don't know that you could ever learn to be that way. I think that it's almost like instincts. You're kind of born with instincts. I think there's a certain. I think you could teach instinctive process, but you can't necessarily be totally instinctive. Like as a baseball coach, I would for the players that I thought lacked instinct, I would set up game situations in a practice situation on the field, practice wise, and have them look at things as though and try to become more aware. I don't know if you become more instinctive, but you could definitely become more aware. So that's part of it. So just a roundabout answer. So guys, I think you have to be a really instinctive human being. You have to see things. You have to feel things. You have to be able to connect with people, almost like for me, the first time we meet or you and I met or anybody, I automatically start doing my deep dive without even having to say a word. And I think guys that are charismatic, guys that have that it factor, it comes through. It's not like you have to like wait to the second or third time you meet them to pick up on it. It's just it's a way about them. I think there's a confidence level about it, conversationally, maybe a look, but definitely the ease with which they do whatever they're doing, whether it's golfing, baseball, whatever. There's a fluidity about their movement, and there's just something different. Whether it's the sound of the bat, the pit ball out of the hand, ball off the head of a golf club, whatever. There's just something different about these people. But the it factor to me, beyond physical ability, is this innate uh, pouring from your pores that you could feel, you could see, you could sense it. It's just different as opposed to those that try a little bit too hard. Definitely not the victim kind of a person. It's just somebody that's very at ease within his own skin and body and makeup, but there's a charismatic effect. And that's what I thought the Cubs were. I thought the 2016 Cubs were really a charismatic group that just drew you in through their personalities, the way we played, the way we interacted, the ease with which we smiled, and then we played hard, man. You played hard, and then after the game, you win hard for 30, lose hard for 30, and move on. Long answer, but it's something that you feel when you're in the presence of somebody like that.
So I'm going to jump around because I want to come back to
Okay.
this, but
Mhm.
win hard for 30, lose hard for 30. Can you
Yeah,
expand upon that point, Coach?
yeah. I mean, when I was coming up primarily in the major leagues, I got to the big leagues with the Angels in 1994, five, and that was really obvious to me, man. Losing was like took way too long to get over. Oftentimes we would lose at tough games, and all of a sudden, I felt it was going to bleed over into the next day and the next day, and then you might by the third or fourth day, all of a sudden pull your head out of your butt, and now you get back to being a normal human being and stop worrying about all this crazy stuff or being angry with somebody or pointing fingers or whatever it is that causes a losing streak to continue. So my thing when I got to the Rays was I really wanted to be impactful because I hated walking in a locker room after a tough loss the night before, and you can still feel the loss the next day. And it's probably among your leaders, the better players or the manager, the coaching staff. They're the ones that have to shake it because primarily the rest of the group's going to follow whatever that feeling is. So I decided I was going to explain it that way. Listen, I want us to win hard for 30 minutes. I want us to lose hard for 30 minutes, and then I want us to move on. The same thing with you win. You don't want to become so enamored with this one win that also creates some kind of a complacency the next day. So I wanted us to win hard for 30, lose hard for 30, turn the page, move on, come back, clean slate, let's go, and let's just go play the game like we've talked about in camp and how we've designed this to do this. Otherwise, man, it could really fester into something. The winning side of it, to win longer than 30 minutes, it could be good, but not necessarily. But the losing, if you lose the next day and the next day based on a loss from the previous 2 days, man, that just festers and that becomes a toxic kind of.
Mm, well, I appreciate
Mm-hmm.
that. We talk about on this podcast hinge moments. So
Mm-hmm.
these moments, people, events that make all the difference in our lives. Sometimes we don't know the impact
Mm-hmm.
when they happen until weeks, months, or years later. But I want to start with this, a hinge moment that you had. I mean, you're coaching with the Angels organization and you get passed over for
Yeah.
a position you felt you had. And even one of your mentors tried talking to you and saying, "Hey, trust me, you don't want it." But you were still upset, and you were kind of talking about holding that and not able to like let it go. And then, not to be able to shake that difficult feeling.
Mhm.
But then you had a ride on an airplane that changed everything. I was wondering if you could pick it up from there, Coach.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I was passed over early 90s. My buddy Jeter Hines got the job, loved Jeter, still loved Jeter, and that wasn't the point. The point was that I felt like I did deserve this opportunity, was not given it. Okay, so I was a carrier at that point. Normally, I was able to move along, put it in the rearview mirror, not be that upset about it. But this one really stung. It really stung me, and the next spring training, I carried it with me into this happened in the off season, prior to the regular season. The major league team made up their staff, and then here it comes spring training for me, and I'm the field coordinator, hitting instructor, catching instructor, base running guy. I'm all doing all this kind of stuff, and I had a bad attitude. I've never went to any ballpark with a bad attitude. I never went to a ballpark um, with like kind of like a clouded thought process where it wasn't just about doing my job, making people better, et cetera. I was like totally just carrying this, being upset about it. So I get on a plane going from Phoenix to Midland, Texas, America West, and I was going in there to be the roving hitting instructor. That was a pretty big deal at that time. I had some pretty good prospects. So I get on a plane, and just a bad morning. I still had these thoughts. Get on there, and all of a sudden I notice I have a middle seat on a 737 old America West airline flight, and I get there and I'm like, okay, this is just par for the course. And I had one of those old little those little cassette players with the foamy little headset on it, and I sit in my middle seat, just like stewing the whole time. And I don't want to talk to anybody. I pick up the magazine. There's a lady on my right at the window, and I can't remember who was on my left, but the lady on my right may have been nervous, whatever it was, but she wanted to talk, and I didn't want to talk. So I'm just trying to be polite and not speak with her. Headset off, pulled up the ear a little bit so we could carry the conversation. I'm really trying to make my point to her that, you know, I'm not that bad of a guy, but I really don't want to talk. But finally, I don't know what caused her to say it, but she blurted out to me at one point, remember one thing, whatever you put out there, it comes back to you. And I was kind of like this, like leaning forward. And then I said, I leaned back and I said, would you mind repeating that? And she did. Whatever you put out there comes back to you. I got off that. I chewed on it the rest of the flight. I got off that airplane in Midland. I was back to being me. It made all the sense in the world to me. I was not putting out there the positive vibes, the positive intent that I've always done throughout my entire life that people had told me about. I was putting out conflicting messages. I was negative. So anyway, I get off the plane. I go to the ballpark, and my God, I could not have been more energetic, excited. I was kind of like reborn in that particular moment, just based on that one phrase from this one woman sitting next to me. I go in there with the most horrible attitude, get off that plane with the best attitude. So somewhere over Tucson or maybe the New Mexico border, all of a sudden I became mentally reborn. And I got off that plane. And from that day on, if I ever have a tough moment, I remind myself whatever I put out there is going to come back to me because there's oftentimes, it dovetails into Ken Ravizza. We're going to talk about him in a bit. Attitude is a decision. I just changed my attitude in that moment based on this woman's thoughts. So I went from 0 to 60, from negative to positive town within minutes, just based on that one phrase.
I always love that one, Coach. I try to say there's no one conversation that can
Mm-hmm.
change anything, but any one
Mm-hmm.
conversation can.
Mm-hmm.
And I just love that one, Coach, because even just reading that particular day, I was kind of like in a bad mood. And then when I'm reading those words, I'm like, wait a minute, man, this is the best manager here. Like, that's exactly it. Like, whatever you're going to be put about is what you're going to be getting back. Um, I always wanted to start with that one, Coach, because I just felt it was just such a profound, again, hinge moment. I mean, it changed everything.
It sticks with me to this day. That was what, 10, 20, 30 years ago, every bit of 30 years ago. And I remember like it was yesterday. I could see the airplane, the blue and red, kind of red, white America West emblems on the airplane. I remember taking off. I remember landing in Midland. I remember going to that old ballpark with the wind blowing out to left, which really made you a good hitting coach. Whenever you went to Midland to be a hitting coach, you came out of there 5 days later feeling pretty good about yourself. But it's something I've carried with me, and I still do. I've told my kids about it. When I get stuck with a player, I'll tell a player about it. I don't give them the whole story, but I just give them the phrase. and it's powerful. And like you're right. I mean, I'm a words guy, just like you are. I look at phrases, I look at quotes, I read books, I dig deeper. I love conversation, and you're always looking to pick something up. Whether I go to mass on a Sunday, whatever the priest might have to say, to a buddy in a bar room, they're just going to blurt something. I had dinner with General Fenton 2 nights ago. General Fenton is head of special ops here in Tampa, and he was telling me some really good Lou Holtz stuff. And if it's on my phone, I'll repeat it if you'd like me to. But General Fenton always has something interesting. We talk about leadership. The dude runs special ops. Period. I mean, that's pretty heavy stuff. So I get these kind of conversations with different people, man, and it's very enlightening to me. And whenever they validate my thought process, wow, that's so wonderful.
Hmm.
Mhm.
You you just had an article in the Athletic talking about leadership and then talking about baseball. Um, Share with us, if you wouldn't mind, like what was the main part that you wanted to get across in that article?
Yeah, I mean, it was Jason Jenks from The Athletic had called me and asked me if I wanted to do something like that. And I said, sure, I just don't know when I'm going to have the time to because I'm too busy golfing, right? But I did take the time to do it. And then we got together on the phone and put it together. The crux of it is I really believe not only in baseball, but in general throughout our society, leadership's taken on a different form method as opposed to when I was growing up. When I was coming up, and that's not too long ago. And this is not an age kind of a thing. I just want to get that straight from the beginning. I always felt leaders that I had that really the dudes that I really wanted to follow, they empowered me. They empowered me to do something. They whether it was as a quarterback, whether it was as a catcher, whatever that may be, a minor league coach, manager, scout, I was empowered to do things. They gave me some direction and they got out of my way. They were my safety net. If things were starting to fail, or if I was stuck, or if they didn't like what I was doing, I would hear from them. But otherwise, go, go, go. When you do that, your creative juices flow. Innovation occurs. I could make a difference here. So you're going to get the best out of me under those circumstances when you empower me. As opposed to what I think is happening today is it's more about control as opposed to empowerment. Today's world, whether it's in baseball or other executives I talk, and I do a lot. I'm part of the Sage group. I've done Sage talks with their sales force. I've done it for the Pork Council of the United States recently down in Marco Island. I got one coming up in Chicago, and not almost always, the conversations after the meetings, after the meetings, people will come up to me and say, wow, that's so refreshing. That's exactly how I feel. But most of the time in today's climate, if you're really worrying about your job concern, you're not going to say things like this openly. You're going to hold them. You're going to say them like it at the water cooler, but it's never going to be the conversation that you really want to have. So I feel like being in the position I'm in, I could openly say exactly what I see is going on, what I believe is going on, and then I get great feedback. I've had a Hall of Fame manager recently get back to me about that article, telling me, "Right on, way to go." A couple of them actually that from the Hall of Fame, and then coaches that I've had and players that I've had, they'll get back to me, and everybody's grateful in a sense that I've done this. So I was just trying to point out that I grew up in a situation where I felt the people that were in charge, my leaders, would give me a direction, they'd give me a job to do, and they'd get out of my way. And whereas today, the leadership is about giving you a job, telling you what to do and how to do it, and constantly being in your way. That is what I see as being different in today's world as compared to, I would say, right between 2000 2005, the shift began.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a firm believer. I think people need autonomy, right? They
Yeah.
need to feel free in order to fail or succeed on their own. The relatedness, they need to be a part of something bigger than themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And then the competence, right? The competence is confidence. I think if people believe that they're good at what they do, they do that extra work. I appreciate you sharing that. I do want to return to that too, Coach, because I know that's a big part of your philosophy and coaching. Um, Baseball. So, I mean, again, it was my sport growing up. I love the sport so much. Like I would smell the glove. I mean, when that
Mm-hmm.
early springtime grass got cut, I mean, it only meant one thing. I mean, I watched the natural so many times in my life that, I knew every single word to that one and just absolutely loved it. And what was your favorite part of just the game in general, Coach?
Oh, the game. Oh my God. I was just like you. I'm 6 right now. And yeah, in the wintertime, I would get my glove, oil it up, make it way too heavy, put it in a plastic bag and put it in a corner somewhere. Could not wait to be able to actually go. I'm lived growing up in Pennsylvania, so I cannot play ball in the wintertime. I had to play football and basketball, but I could not wait to get that glove out of the bag, smell it, play catch, whatever. My favorite part of it always has been just the field itself. I mean, when you walk out in a real baseball field, and I say, brother, I grew up on some cow pastures playing some ball. And one of them was called the cow field. It really was. It's down on 17th Street. And there was a lot of rocks in these fields. There's actually some boulders on some of these fields. And when you got on a real ballpark, it was like, oh my God, it was like heaven on earth. But it was
Hmm.
the field. I mean, the field was the draw. And once you got to the field, then everything else started to open up. I mean, whether it was playing catch, whether it was batting practice, getting some ground balls, warming up in the bullpen, the smell, the sounds, everything about it. I could not wait to do it every day when I'm growing up. I mean, every day. As soon as the weather got good, you did it every day. There was no days that were off, I promise. So it was just a conceptually the diamond. The first time I went to Connie Mack Stadium, my dad took us down there in 1963, 4, something like that. Saw the Giants and the Phillies, and you go up through the portal and you look out at this green field in the middle of this city. It's like, my God, there's nothing more magical than that. There isn't. There's no
Hmm.
more stronger draw than a green field, uh, perfectly manicured with the smells and the sounds and everything about it, the hot dogs, whatever. It is. It's imbued. It's a part of you. So um, I'm a romantic when it comes to this game, as opposed as in uh, with the fact that I love the game, but I'm also romantic about it. I love the natural. I love Bull Durham. I love Field of Dreams. I love all that stuff. I could go on and on about all this stuff, but it's everything about it. But it all centers around that diamond. The diamond is really what separates everything, man. It's so alluring.
Yeah. One of my
Mm-hmm.
favorite things, I'm so glad my kids are kind of into it. They'll get into history with me
Mm-hmm.
and we'll watch Ken Burns every once in a
Yep.
while. And I can't watch it, coach, without just getting so nostalgic and having
Mm-hmm.
tears come to my eyes
Mm-hmm.
in terms of like, and I'm just not sure what it was. I think maybe it is. I'm a romantic as well, but it's just, I think I hold on to all those preciousness. And it's like the first time you come across somebody, like if it's a shoeless Joe Jackson, you come across like a Ted Williams, or even like, a Josh Hamilton, like
Mm-hmm.
how the impact of these people, when you come across them for the first time, it's the same thing as people growing up with them watching them. It was special.
When it was a game by HBO really turned me on, man. If you remember when that came out,
Yeah.
actual video footage that the players took back primarily, I would say, started in the 30s, 40s. They had some uh, black and white or film that they colorized. I think they might have been black and white, but those films to me, oh my God, I could not get enough of that. And then they came out with part two, and I was just totally glued. This was like I think right prior to me getting to the big leagues. The one thing about the going to the big leagues, the one thing that I always before I got there, the one thing that really resonated with me that I had to see and I could not wait to see was what was beyond the Green Monster at Fenway Park. What was over the wall? What was that street like? What was on that street? So I get to go to the Fenway. I got to go to Boston for the first time. It was '94. We get there on an off day, and it's raining bad. But I got to go out, and so I get up at we land at like 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm up at 9. Get on the shuttle, go down to Harvard Yard. Never been there. Then I get on a train, go out to Boston College. Never been there. Then I come back and I do some other things. I go to Boston Commons, whatever. Have never been there. And then finally the next day I'm going to the ballpark, but I go early so that I can walk and see what goes on beyond the left field wall. To me, that was I used to have dreams about it as a kid. I just there's again the romantic part of this. I mean, what people walking up and down there, ball flying over the fence. Is there a bar there? Is there a place to hang out there? What goes on there? The lights, the lights are shining into the ballpark, but the residue of the lights shining down on the street. That to me is like that was that's what I had to see. I had to see that. And that's once I did see that, I was in the big leagues. And that was really important
Mm,
to me.
I love that. Thanks for sharing that,
Mhm.
coach.
Yeah. Mhm.
That's awesome. Well, again, I always like to follow chronologically, so I'm going to come back to my
Mhm.
point. But
Mhm.
since we're on stadiums, I mean, Wrigley Field, I mean, it has to be one of the best. What was your favorite part of Wrigley?
Oh wow. walking in from the parking lot every day, park your car, walk across the, what is that over there? That's that Sheffield on that side. Um, you walk in and I look up and I said, thank you. I said, thank you every day. Thank you, God, to be put in this position, to be manager of this team at this ballpark with these fans and this tradition. Wow. Every day. That was it. Walking into the ballpark, I swear every day I would look up and say, thank you. And then the ballpark itself, when you come down, before they fixed it up, before the new locker room was kind of like a labyrinth to get into the dugout with this really small press room. But I loved it. I loved all of this because I knew that, Billy Williams walked through there, Ernie walked through there back in the day, Ronnie Santo walked through there, all the dudes, Bergie, they all walked through this labyrinth to get onto the field in this tiny dugout that was very uncomfortable. When you get into the dugout, you look out in the field and wow, there's this ivy wall, and the way it's an all-encompassing kind of a feel. It's very it's quaint, obviously, but it's just an encompassing feeling when you're in this ballpark. It's like no other. Um, so you get in there and you see all that, and it's so tidy, and it's such a small footprint, and the real scoreboard in center field above the center field wall. And then if you take a walk out and you start looking back up, of course, there's still beams and obstructed views, and the seats are just. And then there's one corner. When you stand in the dugout, there's a corner way down the right field line where if you go up the stands, the sign, they kind of jut out a little bit. I don't know why, but they just jut out. And that corner there, I would always want to see if somebody was sitting in it, because if somebody was sitting in that, man, that just tells you how much people love the Cubs in Wrigley Field. It was great. So there's nothing like it. I think it's the best, absolutely the best baseball venue in the United States. I think you could put it up as one of the best athletic venues in the world. I really think it's special in the neighborhood. They used to all be like that. They're not anymore. So uh, they nailed it. They nailed it back in the day.
Yeah.
This is a cathedral.
When you talk about then walking into Wrigley and saying thank you, how important is gratitude and perspective just in everyday life?
I think gratitude and humility and perspective are like first cousins. I mean, they all should walk hand in hand. They should be buddies. Um, yeah, it's always starts with gratitude. I think gratitude, when you feel that, then you can the humility can pour from that. Perspective. I pray that perspective is not sent my way. That's one of my prayers. I want to stay in advance of perspective all the time. When perspective arrives, it's normally because you've gone outside your lanes, you've misread this thing. All of a sudden, you just get caught up in nonsense, and here comes perspective. I don't. I really want to always try to stay in advance of perspective. Again, going back to the attitude is a decision. Whatever you put out there comes back to you. This is all these kind of thoughts keep you in advance of perspective being partially sent to you. So that's that. I've always thought that. I've always believed that. So they are first cousins at least, and I've the gratitude, humility, and perspective. Yeah, if you could actually understand that, and if you could live by that, my goodness, everything else comes a little bit more easily during the course of the day because you appreciate everything around you and understand if it's not working right now, if you stay with the process, it'll eventually come back to you.
Mm-hmm. It's awesome, coach. Um, I mean, I guess let's pick up Tampa Bay. Um, the early seasons there, I mean, obviously you developed patience, but I mean, you had a
Mhm,
philosophy, you had a vision about what to accomplish there.
mhm.
Start with this when you arrived there, coach, and you laid out the plan and the vision.
Yeah, I mean, I had been doing it for a while. That was the benefits, one of the main benefits of me getting that opportunity when I was 51, 52 years of age. I had already run minor league teams, minor league organizations. I had scouted, which still people don't understand how, to me, the most important thing I did growing up in baseball was to scout. Scouting gives you the perspective that you need to really understand how this thing works and how it grows. And I've encouraged young potential managers to ask organizations to permit them to go out and scout a little bit and see what this feels like and looks like in advance of you actually attempting to manage a team, and even like to go out and manage uh, before you become a major league manager. Go out and do some rookie ball, man. Nobody wants to do that stuff anymore, but that's where you learn. So by the time I get to the Rays, I absolutely knew what I wanted to do. And then you get accused of doing crazy things. I only do what perceives to be crazy things because I've tried them. I've tried them in Idaho Falls, Salem, Oregon, Peoria, Illinois, Midland, Texas, and every other outpost that I rove to. I've seen things and I've tried things, and I have a feeling what works. Just like putting Kyle Schwarber in a leadoff spot, that was met with great resistance because he didn't get off to a great start. But this goes back to the time I put Kevin King into one hole in Midland. Kevin, big guy, built like a Don Baylor, went from hitting 233 with 7 home runs in the first half to hitting 300 with 30 home runs by the time the second half was over because I put him in the leadoff hole and said, KK, just try to hit singles up the middle, knowing that if he did that, the ball's going to go near, going to go far.
Mm-hmm.
But I've done that. Defenses, whether it's the shift, different kind of plays on offense, base running situations, done it all there, done it all on fields that nobody gets to see you screw up. And that's what's so important. So you get to the Rays and you start mapping all this out. And when you map it out, Andrew gave me a lot of latitude with that. Nobody was telling me or us how to put together the scheme, whether it was defensively, what to teach offensively, what kind of game you wanted to run, how to work your pitchers or bullpen. I had to fight them on all this stuff in the beginning because analytically, there's some things that is antithetical to what they want to do, but I believe is the right way to do it. But Andrew gave me latitude. We used to argue about number of pitches starting pitcher can throw. We'd argue how many times a relief pitcher can throw, how many days in a row. We'd argue about matchups sometimes where I didn't like a certain matchup, not left and left or right and right, just because I didn't think the guy kind of was competent in a moment. So, but it was like the combination of my baseball sense and the advent of analytics. I had been analytical coming on up. I did my own version of analytics for years. So all the stuff that's being done today, it's so funny that they give it different names and all of a sudden it becomes new. But analytics has been going on forever. It's not been as somewhat accurate because every pitch, every day, every movement is now scrutinized. Back then, it was primarily you against whatever team you were playing, and you break things down as best as you can. So the accuracy maybe could be argued is not as accurate as it is today, but what they give you today also, regardless of accuracy or not, there's still biases built into it, and you don't need all that much information. So yeah, I laid out my program based on all my years of the minor leagues with the Angels, how we did things there, right down to giving lineups. I would write them up a week in advance with Davey Martinez for my bench coach, and then we'd always give guys heads up 2 or 3 or 4 days in advance with the Rays, letting the guys know when they're going to play, when they're going to be off. And if you want, and we would have meetings telling them exactly where they stood. We did everything just like that was run just like the Angel minor leagues between 1985 and 1994 when I got to the big leagues. So I knew what I wanted. I knew what I believed worked. I was flexible. I've always been flexible and I love flexibility. But what you saw with the Rays was a kind of like the result, the residue of Angel minor leagues between, like I said, 84, 85 until 94, until I got to the big leagues.
Mm-hmm. How important was patience for you
Oh,
just in those first few years there?
it's incredibly important. My dad was a patient man. My dad was a plumber, and everybody always talked about the patience of my father, and I think I got that. Not my mother, my dad. And so I knew, again, it goes back to being a scout. I saw players. I saw Devon White. Devon White gets drafted, I think 5th or 6th round out of the Bronx. I think it was the Bronx. Al Goldis, Nick Kamzik, draft him. He comes to me in Idaho Falls, real skinny glasses, lanky, long-armed, long-legged kid, and they tell me he's a third baseman. And I'm watching this and I'm saying, this is ridiculous. He's not a third baseman. So one day I called up Mike Port and I said, Mike, could I put this guy in center field? And sure, go ahead, put him in center field. In deep batting practice, Devo would swing and miss. I'd be throwing BP, swing and miss, get him out. He couldn't even hit BP. He long armed, like I said, a strong arm, but everything was like a young colt. It just things weren't working properly yet. And then he went from rookie ball to low A to high A to double A to triple A. Big leagues, gets sent back. I have to meet him in Portland to work on some hitting issues, and he goes back to the big leagues and never comes back. So I got a chance to see this. A lot of guys that don't get a chance to see that would already kind of say, nah, it's not going to work. Look at this. He can't even hit guys in batting practice, whatever. So that's just that's like a perfect example of what I saw on the minor league level as a scout that permitted me to have patience. And patience might be like right now with the Yankees, they're taking Williams out of the closer role. I'm not saying they're being impatient. I understand why they did, but they're going to be patient. They're going to give him another opportunity. But you have to be able to read the tea leaves, what's going on right now, and be able to look into the future a bit. And you have to believe it to see it. That's another part of it. Everybody has to see it to believe it. And in scouting world, you have to believe it to see it at some point. And that's Devo's a perfect example of that. And with this kid Williams right now, who's been really good, they have to just don't give him lip service. They really have to believe that he's going to come back and do this to be able to really help him. Because I mean, I watched it. It's been bad to this point. It does not look anything like he had in Milwaukee. So these are the kind of things a good scouting background permits you to see before anybody else can.
Oh, I love it, Coach. I always say in terms of like, and this is in many contexts, right? But in terms of evaluation, in terms of patience, like you make an assessment. It's not incorrect. It's just incomplete
Correct.
because you don't know what it's going to be that moment that might change it, or that person that comes alongside them, or a different approach that can just unlock that potential. So I appreciate you sharing that, Coach.
Mhm.
Ken Ravizza.
Yeah.
One of the reasons why I got in the field of sports psychology was because of Heads Up Baseball, him and Dorfman. And then just quick little story, Coach, so I'd add it. Like when I got to grad school, I was given a second chance. And I always said this, look, if I ever get a second chance at life, I'm not going to blow it. I'm going to go all the way.
Mhm.
And so Ken Ravizza was presenting up at Springfield College. And I'm at Temple University at the time. I'm in get my graduate degree, master's degree, sports psychology. Drive all the way up, hear him speak. It was great. And then I got to go out to lunch with him. So like I'm having lunch, we have this Italian Gestapo, right? I mean, not Gestapo,
Yeah.
Cerveci, and like, it's
Yeah.
just a great
Yeah.
Italian lunch. And then I always stayed in touch with him. I even sent him my wife when I got back to Philly, sent him like a bottle of gravy, like sauce, right? Like red
Right. Yeah.
sauce, because I knew he liked that stuff. And was always able to stay in touch with him. Um, but you had such a great handle on the mental game and the relationship and what he taught. But talk about that relationship and how that impacted you.
Wow. I mean, that goes back. I love the man. I miss him. I miss him. He would be my sounding board every year. Everything I did, I'd run it by Kenny first. Practically everything. That's not an exaggeration. Started in the mid '80s. He came to the Angels, and I think Gene was their mock, and Marcel Lachman, who was ahead of his time with all this. Also, Marcel saw the benefits of what Ken's work was with the pitchers with the Angels in the mid '80s, the big league team. And Gene is a man for all seasons. Gene Mock, never won a World Series, whatever, but this is like probably maybe the brightest mind I've ever been around in the game of baseball. So Gene gave him a lot of latitude with that. So Kenny shows up and he's there and he would conduct meetings with pitchers primarily at that time. And this is where I first started hearing all the different about the process. And attitude is a decision, and the breath is the anchor, and having that spot on the outfield fence that you got to turn to somewhere, pick out your happy spot in order to permit you to breathe. All the different things that Kenny went through, and then I would throw my stuff back at him. So on an annual basis, let me just move forward a little bit. By the time I got to the big leagues, I would always I would put together my opening day talk speech with the pitchers and catchers and the players. But Kenny would come by my house in Long Beach. We'd sit down in the kitchen. We'd go over all this stuff, and I'd throw out what I thought. He'd criticize or like it back at me. We'd go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Then once he brought me into his classroom at Cal State Fullerton, I presented to the classroom. Once he brought me a couple times, brought me to Long Beach State, the Dirtbags, which is still one of my favorite college programs of all time, and sitting in this long, narrow clubhouse with the Dirtbags sitting there, that's still the best nickname of any baseball team ever. And
Yeah.
I know I talked to them about what I was going to talk to my guys about. So Kenny gave me this opportunity to run things by, and then we would collaborate after that and like try to dress it up a little bit. Had him with the Rays, Angels, and then the Cubbies, and My God, I mean, when he passed away, I was in San Francisco. When the word got to us, it was absolutely horrible. But Kenny, he told you straight. It always made sense. It was simple. Do simple better. He was always about simplicity, uh, simplicity, or some whatever he called it. And we always collaborated, man. And there was always a sense of calm and knowing with him, where if he came from him in this very strong manner and he believed in it, my God, it had to be true for me. So I was so fortunate. My mentors, like whether it's Marcel Latchman, Gene Mock, Ken Ravizza, all showed up at the same time in the mid 80s, early to mid 80s with the Angels. Kenny, and then of course I knew Harvey. Um, I knew him. I knew Harvey well too. You're talking about like the icons of this particular genre of mental skills and spot in sports. And I had to convince people at that time. Listen, it's no different than your hitting coach, no different than your pitching coach, your infield coach. This Kenny is a mental skills coach. He's the same as these guys. You have to understand. He's going to give you thoughts, ideas to work with. No different than your hitting guy is, your pitching guy is. Because a big so with that too is all the old coaches. The coaches didn't want to hear. When did he ever wear a jock strap? What did he ever do? And I had to like try to explain to them. No, 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 no. You're missing the point here. He's gonna listen to what you have to say, and he's gonna process it and give it back to you in a way that might be a better way to say it, and that's gonna make you a better coach at what you do. So anyway, love the man, miss the man every day. He was the best.
One of the things, Coach, that Revisit always stress, and I know you did as well, is just checking in on players, having one-on-ones with them, and checking on players, and especially having that touch with everybody before the game. Like one instance, David Price, 2008 Game 7, pregame of the against the series in Boston. Talk to us about what having that touch with him, like pregame. What stood out about that moment?
Well, David doesn't like a lot of conversation, especially before a game, and I know that. Okay, so I was doing my walk around the outfield. This is Game 7, Rays Red Sox, ALCS, going to the World Series if you win it, and we're playing at Tropicana Field. So I was doing my rounds because I wanted to talk to the relief pitchers and see where they were at. So I'm walking around and come around the center field, and there's David, and I walk up to him, and he's right behind second base in that area. And I said, David, what are you thinking? How you feel tonight? And he looked at me. He's got these big old like doe eyes about him, and he says, I'm fine. I took that as, okay, that's enough. Get the hell out of here. He's fine. He did not want to take it any farther than that, and he was fine. You saw what he did in that game. He was one of the hugest reasons that we got to that particular point. So I thought that, but once I saw the fire in his eyeballs, I felt really good about this. He was fine. He is fine. Young man, but he had been come out of Vanderbilt, very highly acclaimed. He was with us. He really hadn't established himself as a big league dominant starter yet, but that was coming around the corner. So we put him out of the bullpen to get the most out of that glorious arm of his. But I'm fine. Get the hell out of here, kind of a thing. And I thought, perfect. I'm out. And that's again, that's reading your group. Other guys, you might stand there and they want to give you more of an explanation, pat me on the back, let me know I'm fine. Okay, it's all cool. Just give me a heads up. No, I'm fine. Now leave. And that was David. And I thought that was great. And you saw what he did.
No, I love it, Coach. Appreciate you sharing.
If
If you're struggling with soreness, pain, or inflammation, you need to check out Stamina Pro Recovery Patches. Developed for over 15 years, the clinically proven technology of Stamina Pro is free from all chemicals, all pharmaceuticals, all drugs, and it's 100% safe for athletes. I only promote products that I use myself, and Stamina Pro takes care of all my training needs, pain, and soreness. If you use the code DRB15, you get 50% off, or use the link below, Stamina Pro. You always stood on the top of the dugout. You said feel is the gift of experience. The feel of the game that you would have, which would be tremendous. Do you think, I don't think I need to set you up more than that. I was just wondering if you could take it from there.
I could not sit in a dugout, and I can't sit and think during a baseball game, and I definitely cannot sit in a bunker and feel what was going on. I mean, it's pretty much a bunker. So I've always stood on the top step, and I want to be out there because you got to feel the crowd behind you. and you got to feel what's going on the field. And when you do that, for me, then you could really, it's of course I'm thinking like intellectually like I always do, but now I combine that with what am I actually feeling out here? What am I sensing out here? My pitcher, I get a better understanding or feel like, well, where he's at mentally, what he looks like, what his eyeballs might look like. Is he coming out of his delivery? Is he staying in his delivery? I don't miss a pitch. I mean, if I miss a pitch, I get so angry with myself. I do. That's not that I follow the ball all the time, but because I'll look to different areas of the field if I think it's time to look to somewhere else. But I got something to do on every pitch, and the top step permits me to do that. Whether it's the hitter, because I'm an old hitting coach, I'm always breaking down mechanics there. Defensively, we've been working on some guy on his first step, pre-pitch movement. What does it look like there? Or just feeling the attitude. Just listen. I stand by it. You could feel when it's going the wrong way, or you could feel when it's going the right way. When it's working in your favor or against you, and if it's working against you, you might have to do something. I don't know. This might be the time I got to go out there and argue about something, or this is, something that I might have to try something different, with the bullpen or the pinch hitter, et cetera. You got to feel this whole thing. And, I know a lot of analytical folks will argue that point, but it's true. There's another sense, there's another level to existence in what we do. And you have not, unless you've earned the right to say that you feel something, that don't even talk about it. And feel is the gift of experience. That's something I've really I jonesed on a bit, and I have a sweatshirt that's right over here that has it on it, because I wanted people to understand that, because when you use the word feel in today's baseball world, no analytical people want to hear that, and a lot of front office people don't want to hear about feel. Play the dots, 100 pitch limit, third time through the batting order, all this kind of stuff. Every day's different. The big point about this I want to make is this. Analytics is all theory. It's all theory. It's a large sample size. It's taken over a period of time. It's the matrix that is made up, the numbers that are put into that, the bias that is built into whatever you're doing. That is theory. How often in our lives do theory and reality match up? Theory is the game plan. Reality is what happens in the seventh inning when things get hot, and your guy that, or let's just say the fifth inning, where this guy's not supposed to pitch beyond 80 pitches, but he is absolutely cruising and he's dominant and his stuff is really good, and those guys are getting bad swings. So why am I taking him out right now all of a sudden? So I'm always in tune to that, and that's a big part of, I think, how you do this whole thing. Theory versus reality. Theory is analytics. Reality is your experience.
It's awesome, Coach. I like to say theory and reality are exactly the same, except in reality, they're different.
Very good. On the money. On the money.
Coach, 2016, obviously you show up defining expectations, defining the process.
Yeah.
Actually defining pressure. And then you would have do the simple better, constantly reduce. The process is fearless.
That's right.
Talk to us about that, what you implemented.
Well, first of all, the process is fearless. That's something that Kenny and I argued about, because Kenny didn't like it at first. But I said, Kenny, if you really stay in the process, you become fearless. You're not focused on a negative outcome right now. That's where this comes from. I mean, if you really learn to become more process oriented, the result is not even in your concern, because you're going to believe, if you think about it, I believe that there's going to be a good result because my process is so good and I'm staying with it. Right. And if it's not turning out good now, it's eventually gonna, if you just stay with this kind of a thing. So that's where the process is fearless came from. And then beyond, yes, sir.
Why didn't he jive onto that?
I don't know. He had, I just think that he just didn't quite understand it at first. He never banged on it after that. But in the beginning, he gave me a hard time with it. And I said, no, Kenny, I really believe this to be accurate. Yeah. And so I actually got my dad and like, may all your surrealisms come true. All these things that I've come up with, I believe they're accurate. And that's not arrogance. That's just telling you, I believe it's germane based on everything we've talked about. And then you talk about 16, pressure, expectations, run towards those two words. Never run away from those two words. Those words mean that something really good is going to happen at the end of this. If you, again, stay with the process, if you're fearless in the moment, if you're courageous in the moment, if you believe in the moment, all these things are going to come to fruition. Embrace the target. I'm sitting 2015, I go to the first year with the, yeah, after our first year with the Cubbies, I go to the winter meetings. I think they're in San Diego. And all the managers have to get together with a gaggle with the reporters talking about the upcoming season, which would have been 16. And you're surrounded. You're the Cubs manager. You're surrounded, and all of a sudden they're giving me all these lines about this coming season and about, never won in 100 years, whatever all this expectations, all this pressure, whatever. And I just blurted it out. It just came from within. I said, this is a situation where we have to embrace the target. Boom. Then that really created its own life form, but it's true. I mean, do you run away from that or do you embrace this? That was my point. So that became a t-shirt, obviously, embrace the target and run towards all these things. And that was born of a gaggle of reporters in San Diego at that time. And then off that, reduce, do simple better. Everybody wants Occam's razor. Everybody wants a convoluted answer to a problem in order to think that it might, that answer is too simple. That can't be right. I need something a little bit more complicated to really suffice whatever it is that I got going on within my head. Where Occam's razor always talked about probably the most simple solution to a problem is probably the one that's going to be accurate. And all of that, I mean, I came up in my head with do simple better. That was my definition of that. Do simple better. It's just almost, to me, it rivals just do it. So I really try to sell the boys on simplicity as opposed to something complex when it gets hot, when it gets in that seventh or eighth inning and things are hitting the fan. Really, analytics, there's no such thing as analytics at that point. It's about breath, breathing, staying in the moment, believing in yourself, not thinking about anything is really pretty much what it's about. It's about being in that zone moment, that zone area. So all these things are interrelated. And so all these different concepts that Kenny and I had spoken about led to me blurting out these different things. So do simple better, reduce. When I present it to you, when I present it to my guys, I want it to be in its most basic form so that if in fact you need it to hold on to it at another point, you can, because it's going to be easily remembered and not more difficult.
Yeah, it's fantastic, Coach, and I know we speak the same language, and I love the way you articulate it. I often say the mental game is more about subtraction than it is addition. What's a specific example, Coach, that stands out to you in terms of reduce?
A lot of times, just as a hitter, just a hitter is I mean, when you're working with a hitter, instructing a hitter as an example, I mean, he might have 2 or 3 or 4 things wrong with him, possibly, or just different things that you don't like. Same with my golf swing, right? But if you, as an instructor, can get to one point, the most major thing you think is wrong with this, that might permit all these other things to fall in line without even having to speak about them, I go there first. So I'm trying to reduce my conversation with him to give him one thought to hold on to and then go from that thought. Now, once that thought takes root and it starts to becoming part of what he does, and hopefully that does fix these other components of it. But if it doesn't, then it's time to add the next layer, and not just the next layer right now or even 2 or 3 days from now. So you're always looking at something complex and reducing it. Game planning, the same thing. I mean, when it comes to a meeting, my God, what do they think these players could hold on to in a meeting? I mean, I'm okay with inundating me as a manager or coaches with just give me these reams of information. Give me reams. That's cool. But when you present, see, there's a difference. I mean, like the analytical people like that, they are presenters, and I believe coaches, managers are teachers, and there's a difference between the two. They're interconnected but different. So as you present, understand what can you hold on to? You're dealing with a lot of players that don't even want to hear all this stuff. So the more you give them, the more you tell them how to build the watch and don't tell them what time it is, they're just going to turn you off. And there's no way. It's almost narcissistic to believe that if I present all this stuff that these guys are going to be able to hold on to all this stuff and then utilize it. No, it's got to be reduced, all this information. And so that's another component of it, that the glut of information, it's often confused where people think that baseball's run analytically in a sense that the game, there's an analytic component to it regarding, like I said, the third time through the batting order, try to put the ball in the air. Strikeouts are okay. Pitchers, we're going to shape this pitch, throw this as hard as you can with spin on the top. That's all part of the analytical world. But at the end of the day, it really comes down when it gets hot. I got to get you out. I got to put the ball in play somehow. It has nothing to do with any of that. So that's where all this stuff diverges. So for me, the simpler you could present to your group and give them just small, tiny little nuggets to hold on to, then they may be able to actually utilize some of this stuff during the game. Otherwise, all these reams of information, all these elongated meetings, it's incredible that the meetings are for presenters. Like I said, the teachable moments are for coaches.
That's awesome, Coach. And that impacted, I mean, Herb Sendek used to say, the basketball coach, like during timeouts, he reduced his 3 points down to one because he said they could have one piece of information that they would take back out. Did that impact then, like, mound visits?
Absolutely, yeah, and that would be like always. That would not be me. I'd only went out there to discuss strategy if I had to go out there for strategical moments. Otherwise, it'd be for the pitching coach to go out there. But yeah, I mean, I watch these guys go out there with their hand over their mouth, and there's all these elongated stuff going on. And at that point, glazed over eyes. I mean, you go out there to talk to your guys during the course of a game. Look them in the eyeballs. I like to put my hand on the pitcher's chest to see what's going on in there. I think that's why Maddox puts his hand on the pitcher's shoulder to see how his body's reacting. But they glaze over. You can't give them that much stuff. There's a lot going on. There's 50,000 people all around you. This is heat. This is hot right now. When you go out there, it's more than anything. If you want to remind them about one thing, go ahead and remind them about one thing. If you just want to go out there and choreograph what's going to happen next, let's start off with the fastball down and away. Okay, then we're going to try breaking ball. Then we're going to finish them off elevated in or whatever. So you give them like kind of like a little schematic to work by, but that's it. These guys, you can't hold on to all of them. I'm telling you, can't. I can't. You can't. When it gets hot, that's like you talk to people in the military and they talk about, you going into a battle, whatever. And okay, you've got all these great plans. Well, like we're talking about theory versus reality. And Ken Ravizza, Ken used to go to West Point and all these different places and talk to they wanted to talk to him about what we're talking about, having the bread, staying in the moment, working the process. These military folks that are actually fighting life and death situations wanted to talk to Kenny about the same stuff we talk to our players about in an in-game situation. My God. So that's where, if you've never done it before, you don't understand how hot it gets and you don't understand how fast it gets. And when you're looking from upstairs, or whether it's a TV monitor or in your seat or in a broadcast booth, it looks relatively slow. On the field, it's like at the beginning of Star Trek when the Enterprise all of a sudden juices up and just that blur as it goes out of the picture. That's warp speed. Believe it or not, that's how. And I've talked to managers, recent managers, young managers that'll tell me that man, it gets fast down there, dude. It gets fast down there, and that's what people don't understand. Keep it simple. Do simple better.
Yeah. In terms of getting fast, great segue, Coach. The World Series 2016, down 3-1 in the series. And then, come back, and especially then in that game, then there's a rain delay.
Right.
And that 17-minute rain delay, and you spoke about it, all the players spoke about it, but Jason Hayward calls a meeting in that weight room. And another Hinge moment, right, Coach? Like,
Absolutely.
He reminded them who they were. Talk to us about then the significance of that.
Oh, you can't underestimate what that was and what that did. Rain comes down to go see Joe West. Joe West said it 17 minutes. Okay, Joe, because Joe liked to be specific. So I go back in. The dugout in Cleveland is the dugout. Then you got to walk downstairs to go upstairs to go to the manager's office. And off to the right, as I'm going upstairs, is a weight room. And in the weight room, that's where I'm walking upstairs. And all of a sudden, the players are peeling off to the right. What's going on? Jason called a team meeting. It's great. I go upstairs. I'm checking out this iPad. I'm looking for the weather report. I want to see how long this is actually going to take, etc. Jed Hoyer's there with me. We're just going back and forth, trying to be comfortable in a very uncomfortable situation. But anyway, we go back outside. Okay, we're ready to go. We go downstairs, come outside, go in the dugout. Oh my God. Our guys are like, it was the first pitch of the game. I mean, they were fresh. They were ready. They were like eager. They were, let's go. And then, of course, Schwartz leads off with the hit on more pinch runs and everything else happens after that. But Jason's reset right there, I mean, and again, coming from me, not nearly as valuable as it would be coming from a peer. Oh my God, not even close. And even I've heard where Francisco Lindor speaks about with the Cleveland side of things, they just kind of sat around their locker room, sat around their lockers, and then really didn't get animated or start talking to one another. So the deflating or disarming effect that Jason did, knowingly and unknowingly, what kind of an impact it would have on the guys. When I'm telling you, man, I walked outside, I was like, whoa, this game's just starting. Our guys are ready to go. Give Jason all the credit in the world.
And that gets back to then feel as the gift of experience. I mean, somebody
Mhm.
who's gifted but played, and then the
Mhm.
leadership comes out.
Yes, and you have to understand, Jason wasn't tearing it up either as a player at that point.
Right.
He had, I'd not started him a game in San Francisco. We had a conversation about that. So I gave him even more credit because he was dealing with his own adversity at that particular moment, and he rose above that. That's I've told Jason, I've said it publicly, even when he's not hitting well, I hate not having him in the lineup because he does so many other things well, defensively, arm, base running, etc. And just his presence alone. This guy's got presence. You talk about the charismatic, whatever component of all this. He's got all of that. And God, I can't tell you how influential that was, and it was a big part of us winning the World Series.
Mm-hmm. Coach Rizzo catches that last
Mm-hmm.
ball, and I mean, obviously, moments stand out as a coach, but you put your dad's hat on
Yeah.
after that win.
Yep.
What did that moment mean to you?
My dad's hat's in the other room right now. It's still in my backpack. It means everything. I think of my dad every day. My dad played catch with me, uh, put a tire up in the backyard so I could throw a football through it, swinging back and forth. He put up a hoop in the downstairs shop where him and all my uncles worked as plumbers. My dad was there every day. The only time my dad got upset with me was when I retired from football at Lafayette College after my freshman year. I was supposed to be the starting quarterback my sophomore year, and I came home. I went out for fall practice. I didn't want to do it anymore. Drove back home. He didn't talk to me for a couple months, which is like ridiculous. But otherwise, him and my family, my mom's side, my dad's side, it was utopian regarding a childhood. I mean, the way my parents interacted. My mom's still alive, thank God. They set such a great example for work ethic and how to cohabitate together. Both of them. They were funny and they were always there and they were very supportive. And I saw that obviously. My dad never missed a day of work. Never went on vacation. Took me to ball games. Was at every game I played in. I don't care where it was. Um, and he loved sports. So all of that. Very simple man. Never graduated high school. But became a plumber and was honestly one of the best ever. He people raved about his work, and he could do anything. He was a carpenter, also plumber, auto mechanic. There was nothing he could not do he taught himself. He was way more talented than I am. So he set the example for me and for the rest of our family, and that's the most you can say about any dad.
Yeah. Thanks, Coach. What reflect on that season or even in that moment? What else stands out like when you reflect on it now? Because I mean, we always have you can't really tell the significance of a moment, although we know the significance of it,
Mhm.
but only time and perspective can give us that. When you reflect on it now, what stands out?
Yeah, you're right. That's exactly right. I'm still getting there. I still think about 108. You see how difficult it is to follow up, even just to win a World Series from year to year. We got into the NLCS 3 consecutive years, but only won one time, and now they've been struggling for the last several years. But I think I'm 108, and I think about the families and the people that were impacted. So every day, I swear to you, almost every day I'll go somewhere, somebody will recognize, they'll be from Chicago somehow, and they say, thank you. I just want to say thank you. It happens at the golf course, happens at the restaurant, happens in the supermarket. It happens everywhere. The the thing that hits home for me the most, beyond everything else, is the fans and the people of the city of Chicago. Um, that's where my heart lies. There is those folks, because they truly, they didn't want anything except to win that game, and then they were able to sit at their gravesides or at dinner tables or Thanksgivings now or whatever, and reflect upon the fact that it's been solved, that the curse of the goat, Billy Goat, has been solved, and we did it after 100 years, 108 years of not. So the appeal to the city of Chicago and the fan base there and the people, which I really have a strong affinity for. I mean, I really believe it's my town in Hazleton, PA, where I came from, is a microcosm of that city of neighborhoods, ethnic differences, tough people, man. Like to go to a bar room, had a lot of fun, giggled easily. It's very similar with all that. So I felt so comfortable in that city, walking the streets and meeting people in the city of Chicago, because they were so familiar to me. So as we get further away from it, I reflect on the people and what it means to them. Primarily, that to me is the part of that that is the most impactful as I look back at it.
Mm-hmm. Coach, I was wondering if I could talk about this and get your perspective. Because especially with this time that happens, if we talk about the mountaintop moments, I mean, you reach the mountaintop, so many people on there with you, but at some point you have to come back down off that mountaintop, right? Nothing lives up on top of Mount Everest, right? We can't stay up on there. And most deaths happen on the way down from Mount Everest. But with that, coach, you built a culture, you built a method. Um, After the mountaintop moment, um, I mean, the best that the Cubs have ever done,
Mm-hmm.
2 seasons after winning the World Series, expectations rise faster than the results. And I felt personally that you were one of the very first examples of somebody that was let go. I felt like really prematurely. And again, I could be wrong with it, but it felt like, again, people didn't wear hoodies as much until you said it, right? So I mean, you said so many different precedents, coach, but it was like, um, if you want to let somebody go, fine, let them. But that's not kind of how it went. I was wondering if you could just kind of talk about, um, share with the experience during that.
Yeah, it did end too quickly. We all felt that same way. I was not ready to leave Chicago by any means. It was 5 glorious years. The last year, we struggled in that last year, but prior to that last year, I was told that I was not going to get a contract extension because we just wanted to focus on winning. That's what I was told, which is always the focus. But anyway, it was, to me, it was predetermined. The only way I was going to come back is if we almost went to the World Series again. I think, according to the front office and the ownership, and that's all fine. And that's their call. That's their prerogative. But I'm here to tell you that the group itself, I know we had more good years left. You'd have to ask them specifically what the reasons were why they did what they did, because I loved it there, and so did all the players and the whole group. There was more chicken on that bone for us to chew on, but not given the opportunity. So it did happen. It did end way too quickly, I thought, based on, like you said, got to Mount Everest, and the decline was so quick and abrupt and fatal. And it's just the way sports works sometimes. So I never agreed with that. I would never say that, but I could see the writing on the wall after my going into that last year in the off season. I was called in, and I was told I had to change a lot of things. I was told I was not communicative enough. I was told I was not available enough on certain occasions, that I was kind of like pandering to people that came into my office, all this different stuff that not true. I mean, was doing that for the whole time, not pandering. I mean, when you're the manager of the Cubs, people want to come in there, and I always made time, but I obviously did my job. So there was a lot of little things that were said to me that I don't know how true they were. But nevertheless, I think they felt it was time to move on for their agenda, for their reasons, which I really don't have full grasp on, because I was wanting to stay. I wanted to stay with that group. I know there was more good times left, but it just seems to me that they wanted to turn the page right there, and they did.
Man, it must have been difficult. I mean, managing that last year for you,
Oh yeah.
knowing Um, how did you change as a manager? I mean, just having to deal with all that external crap.
Well, I did. What happened was I read uh, Millennials for Dummies, and I was trying because I was kind of accused of not, being able to communicate with these people. And I read it, and I'm going through the beginning of the season, and I'm saying to myself, you know what, this is a crock. I don't know why I bought into that. So at some point, right around June or July, I just finally stopped it because a lot of my pregame stuff was taken away. They started wanting to do things differently. As an example, I never liked before day games on the field. Definitely day games on the field after a night game. I didn't like that. I wanted the guys to report later, not earlier. And it was perceived that the players needed to do more work, which I thought was foolish. You don't need to do more work. Baseball players need to work smarter, not longer.
Mhm.
It is definitely a quality over quantity situation. But the way it's perceived today, the earlier you get there and the more stuff you do, then you're perceived to be carrying more than somebody that doesn't. And I don't buy that either. I've never been a proponent of first one there, last one to leave. I'm not. I don't. In our game, it's a long enough day. I want you to get there when you think you need to get there to get the work done that you need to get done, and then move on. And like I said, win hard for 30, lose hard for 30. So there's a lot of philosophical differences because our most successful years there, we did it that way. We were all about working smarter, not longer.
Because I mean, you talk about it. I mean, you show up if you're there too long. I mean, you're sitting on the couch. You do that
Mhm.
all the time. That takes a lot out of you throughout the year.
I don't like it. I don't like it for me. I don't like it, but we live in a concrete bunker. There's no windows, so you can't even see outside unless you go outside. So I like the idea of conserving energy for everybody, right down to this training staff. I mean, when you come too early or very early to a ballpark, everybody's involved in that. And there's a lot of really wasted time there, I think, time that's not wisely spent. If you need to be there for specific, if there's extra work that needs to be, absolutely. But it does not need to be done on that level every day. The meetings don't have to be that long every day. Again, you're ameliorating those that want to present or want to accumulate information. You're ameliorating that component, which has nothing to do with you winning that game that night. I'm still contend that analytics and data, there are some areas that it really is a superstar. For instance, for me, it's a superstar when it comes to acquisitions. It's a superstar where you want to set up your defense, absolutely, and it's a superstar where you want to pitch somebody. No question, it's a superstar there, and I want all that information. But I want that information gathered and given to the appropriate people, and then let the coaches do all of that stuff. I think that's the right way to do that. Analytics is also really helpful with all the new machinery. If you want to create a new pitch, if you really want to break down the swing and see where there might be something micro that you can't see otherwise that needs to be attended to. Yeah, I like all that, but that's all that stuff's already been done. It doesn't take that long to get the point across. I like fresh minds and fresh bodies. I think fresh minds and fresh bodies win. Like during August, I would always have American Legion Week, just as a homage to the back in the day when you played American Legion ball or Summer League ball, and the game would be at like 6 o'clock, and you might get there 5:15, and you get there, you play catch. If there's BP, you might take a couple swings, put your spikes on, you go out, and you play, and you play pretty good.
Hmm.
Um, so, and I wish I had kept the record, but the record of the teams that I've had during American Legion Week has to be almost like 70% winning. It might be higher than that. I'd have guys show up at 5 o'clock for a 7 o'clock game. They'd come in, stretch, do some things. Maybe if they wanted to go to cage, take a little bit of swings before the game and go play. They felt so fresh. You break the routine. All this stuff is not considered enough, and it's a big part of keeping your team fresh throughout the year, mentally as much
Hmm.
as anything. And people don't even talk about how important it is to stay fresh mentally.
Coach, what about that? The expectations rise faster than the results.
Yeah. Well, again, that's people that you put it together, and who's ever doing the scouting, who's ever doing the acquisitional process, I think their expectations rise faster than anybody's because they're always going to think they're going to be right in their evaluation process. And so when evaluation process breaks down and a player doesn't turn out to be who you thought he was going to be, and then the group on the field has to somehow make this thing work. And I contend that is my job. Whatever is given to us or me, it's your responsibility to make that work. But when it doesn't work, sometimes then it's expectations turn into a little bit of a blaming people, and I'm not into blaming. I believe it's a shared result, and you should not necessarily finger point. For me, it's about being truly able to evaluate what we're seeing in front of us in an unbiased opinionated way. So let's really try what is going on here. Are these players good enough? Are they not good enough? Is the coaching good enough or not? I hate when hitting coaches and pitching coaches get fired. I hate. There are times when that needs to happen, absolutely, but it's rare. It's rare. A lot of most of the time it is the player's fault and not the coach's fault if a player does not succeed. And too many times they are the fall guys for moments like that, I think. So there's so much that goes on in there. I think the best organizations hire the best, keep the best for a long period of time, are patient, use that word earlier. They believe in the acquisitional process and understand that that is the most important thing we do is we get the right people in here with the right skill set, the right attitudes, the right grit, the right makeup, the right character. That's what's the most important. That information is secondary to getting the right people in the door.
Mm-hmm. Coach, you returned then to the Angels.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess specifically, like when you would coach and interact and observe Shohei,
Mm-hmm.
and he wanted to be in the 3-hole every time he was pitching, right? Like he wanted to be hitting when he was pitching. But I mean, talk to us about your experience coming across him.
Well, yeah, when I got there, I knew that I was curious. I never really seen it because he was in the American League, and I thought that he signed up to do one thing. He signed up to do both. So, and he signed up to do two things, not one thing. So when I got there, I really wanted to try to press getting him to do both. Then when I was there, first Billy Epler was the GM, and the way they had done things and had things set up, they did not want him to hit the day before he pitched, the day that he did pitch, or the day after he pitched. Were no fly zone when it came to hitting. And I didn't like that. I didn't understand that. But I had nothing. I couldn't change them at that particular juncture. They were always providing medical reasons why. So then the next year with Perry there, I told Perry, I asked Perry, what do you think? And Perry was definitely, we were on the same page with that. So we sat him down, had the meeting, and the meeting was, there are no rules. The rules are, there are no rules. So you need to be absolutely honest with me, and I shall do the same thing in return to you. And that's how it blossomed. It was all about getting him out there. I remember in spring training that year, the first time we did it, it took a couple of conversations to finally have Show concede to do it in spring training. Once you did it one time, easy. And at that time, there was no Shohei rule. So there was not the DH rule as it is now, where it's like the Shohei rule where the pitcher, he could pitch and be the DH simultaneously and then just become the DH later on in the game. That wasn't it. So I had to put him in the outfield for one more at bat. There was constantly juggling of the lineup. There was all these manipulations. It was fun. It was funny, and he prospered with it. So he is the greatest thing since sliced bread. He is.
Mm-hmm. Coach, I really appreciate your time, your insight. One more question. Like what question should I be asking Coach that I've kind of forgotten or that I haven't asked?
You're really good, man. I mean, you've been on top of everything. The one question, maybe like, I get asked this a lot. What are my plans? Like for
Oh
what's
yeah.
going on now, and in the future. And when it comes down to baseball itself, to get re-involved with the game, it's going to take somebody really wanting what I do, obviously. And I'm not talking about a manager necessarily, just in general terms. I think I have something to offer to an organization, but it'd have to be a connection philosophically. They'd have to understand that I'm going to say what I think and not just one of my old T-shirts was "Tell me what you think, not what you've heard."
Right.
And so that's if you want that kind of candidness and honesty, I'm your guy. But if you don't, then that's okay. And if I don't get re-involved in baseball, which it'd be wonderful, but if it doesn't, I'm okay. In the meantime, it's a lot of this. What you do right now today, you're challenging my thought process. You're making me think. You're keeping all my thoughts in the front of my brain. The podcast with Tommy Verducci is outstanding for me. MLB Network with Brian Kenny, which will be tomorrow. And then just a lot of like little appearances here and there. And people are always challenging my thoughts. That the article in The Athletic a couple of days ago is another example. So that, and then really trying to be a 5 handicap by the end of the summer in golf. I'm down to I'm back into the 7s, was in the 6s, playing longer courses down here in Florida with a lot of wind. So they kind of pumped my number up a little bit. So I'm at a 7-9 now. So I want to get down close to a less than 6 or something in that area. And that would be my goal. So
That's just up and down 2 more times around, Coach.
that's all it is, baby. And so I'm having a blast. Quite frankly, I'm driving to Pennsylvania tomorrow, and life is good, and I'm very grateful about all of it. And I hope the humility stays. And again, please don't send me any more perspective. I'm fine.
Coach, I mean, you're going to have Bill Murray going to be playing you in the movie that comes up at some point,
I'd be honored. He has a golf tournament this weekend, or on Friday. I couldn't go because I'd already committed to something in Clearwater. Bill's wonderful.
Yeah, it'd be awesome. Coach, I just really appreciate it, man. Just have a lot of respect for you, obviously your journey, the impacts you've made, and thank you for taking the time, man.
Thank you, Dr. Rob. It's always a pleasure. It's really wonderful, opportunistic that I got to meet you the way we did, and I think now we've become friends. We could stay in touch, and I may want to run some things by you in the near future and the distant future too.
Anytime, Coach. Thanks, man.
Thank you, brother. Be well.
Hey, golfers, you might not even know that you're looking for it, but this is the best golf sock that you can have. The golf sock. Their grip technology is absolutely stunning. I even use it when I'm running. That's how good these socks are. You're absolutely going to love it. It's like a golf glove for your feet. The golf sock. Click on the link.